The heart monitor flatlined at 11:47 p.m. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The room turned into a photograph. Sterile white walls, the faint hum of distant ventilators, and a body that had stopped fighting. Then the machine jolted back to life with a sharp beep, and the Marine's right index finger twitched once against the sheets. Elena Ward saw it. The two residents standing near the door did not. She'd been watching Corporal Derek Hale for 6 nights straight, cataloging every micro-movement, every irregular breath pattern, every flicker beneath his closed eyelids. The doctors called her obsessive. The charge nurse called her a liability. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that Elena had spent 4 years in forward surgical teams where the difference between life and death was often a twitch exactly like that one. They thought she was just another floor nurse who couldn't let go. They had no idea who she actually was. If you want to see how far the truth can travel, drop a comment with your city below. Subscribe now, because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about the people standing right in front of you. The fluorescent lights in Redwood Heights Medical Center buzzed like dying insects. Elena pulled her hair back into a ponytail and checked the IV line for the 3rd time that hour. Derek's vitals were stable, technically. His heart rate hovered at 52 beats per minute, respiration shallow but steady, blood oxygen at 94%. Everything pointed to a man suspended in limbo, neither alive enough to wake nor dying fast enough to let go. She pulled up a stool and sat beside him. The night shift was always quieter. Fewer doctors parading through with their clipboards and condescending glances. Fewer nurses asking her why she kept volunteering for the graveyard rotation on a case everyone else had written off. "You're still in there," she said quietly. "I know you are." Derek didn't respond. His face remained slack, expressionless, the kind of empty that made people avert their eyes. But Elena had seen worse. She'd seen men with half their skulls missing still trying to speak. She'd seen soldiers with 3rd-degree burns over 60% of their bodies fight for one more breath. This was nothing. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her notes. 6 days of observations, tiny details no one else bothered to document, a slight increase in muscle tone during certain hours, a pattern in his REM cycles that didn't match typical coma patients. Small things, invisible things, the kind of things that kept people alive. Doctor. Raymond Grayson walked in at midnight, clipboard in hand, glasses perched on the end of his nose like a weapon. He glanced at Elena, then at Derek, then back at Elena with the kind of expression people reserve for stray dogs that won't leave the porch. "Still here, Ward?" "Just finishing my notes. Your shift ended 2 hours ago." "I'm aware." Grayson sighed and flipped through Derek's chart. He didn't sit down. He didn't check the monitors. He just stood there, radiating the kind of exhaustion that comes from 20 years of seeing the same outcomes over and over. "You need to let this one go," he said. Not unkindly, just factual. "He's responsive. He's vegetative. He's not." Grayson looked at her over the rim of his glasses. "Elena, I know you care, but caring doesn't change brain function. This man has been unresponsive for a week. No voluntary movement, no cognitive activity. The family is already discussing options." "What family?" Elena's voice came out sharper than she intended. "No one's visited him once." "That's not our concern." "It should be." Grayson closed the chart with a soft snap. "You're a good nurse, one of the best on this floor, but you're too emotionally invested in cases like this. It's going to burn you out." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're here at midnight arguing with me about a patient who statistically has less than a 5% chance of meaningful recovery." He softened slightly. "I'm saying this because I respect you. Step back. Let someone else take this case." Elena didn't answer. She just looked at Derek's face, at the faint stubble growing along his jawline, at the small scar above his left eyebrow that looked old, maybe childhood, maybe combat. She didn't know his story. She didn't need to. She just knew he wasn't gone yet. Grayson left without another word. She stayed until 3 in the morning, then went home and slept 4 hours before coming back. The pattern repeated itself for 3 more days. Different doctors, same conversation. Dr. Patel came through on Tuesday morning with her tablet and her clipped tone, barely glancing at Derek before launching into her assessment. You're still monitoring Hale? Yes. Why? Because someone should. Patel finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, the kind of doctor who prided herself on efficiency. He's a DNR candidate, Elena. The ethics board is meeting about him tomorrow. Elena's jaw tightened. He doesn't have a DNR on file. Not yet, but his case is flagged. No next of kin responding. No insurance coverage beyond basic military. The hospital can't justify long-term acute care for someone with no recovery prognosis. He has a prognosis. He's showing signs of what? Patel's voice cut clean through the air. Reflexive twitching? That's not consciousness. That's residual nerve activity. You know the difference. I know what I see. Then you're seeing what you want to see. Patel stepped closer, lowering her voice. I get it. You want to save everyone, but this isn't a battlefield. It's a hospital. We work with data, not hope. Elena felt the words land like stones. She didn't flinch. I'm documenting changes in his muscle tone, respiratory patterns, and REM cycles, she said evenly. If you want to ignore that, fine, but I'm not stopping. Patel's expression shifted, just slightly, something between pity and frustration. You're going to get yourself flagged if you keep pushing this. Then flag me. Patel walked out without another word. Elena sat down and updated her notes. She didn't care about flags. She didn't care about hospital politics or insurance codes or ethics boards. She cared about the fact that Derek's fingers had moved again 20 minutes ago, a slow curl inward like he was trying to grab onto something. She took a photo of the movement with her phone, documented the time, sent it to no one. That afternoon, she tried to talk to Dr. Marcus Webb, the attending on rotation. He was younger than Grayson, older than Patel, and had the kind of perpetual frown that suggested he'd stopped believing in miracles around the same time he finished his residency. Dr. Webb, I need 5 minutes. He didn't slow down. I don't have 5 minutes. It's about Corporal Hale. The coma patient? What about him? Elena fell into step beside him, pulling out her phone. He's showing inconsistent but measurable responses, muscle contractions in his right hand, changes in breathing rate when I speak to him, REM activity that doesn't match standard comatose patterns. Webb stopped walking. He turned to face her, and for a moment she thought he might actually listen. Let me see your documentation. She handed him her phone. He scrolled through the photos, the timestamps, the notes she'd typed out in meticulous detail. His frown deepened. This is anecdotal at best. It's observable data. It's wishful thinking. He handed the phone back. Elena, I'm going to be straight with you. This patient has diffuse axonal injury. His GCS has been 3 since admission. There's no cortical activity on his EEG. What you're seeing is spinal reflex arc activity. It means nothing. It means he's still fighting. It means his brainstem is intact. That's all. Webb's voice wasn't cruel. It was tired. I know this is hard, but you can't will someone back to consciousness. The brain doesn't work that way. Then why does he respond when I talk to him? He doesn't. You're projecting patterns onto random noise because you want there to be a pattern. It's confirmation bias, basic psychology. Elena's hands curled into fists at her sides. I've seen this before. Where? In a medical journal? Because I've read them all, and none of them support what you're suggesting. In Kandahar, in Mosul, in field hospitals where we didn't have the luxury of giving up. Webb's expression changed, just slightly. A flicker of something, surprise maybe, or recognition. You served? 4 years, combat medic. I've pulled men back from worse than this. He was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. This isn't a war zone. We have standards here, protocols. We can't make clinical decisions based on hope. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to look at the evidence. I did, and I don't see what you see. He started walking again. Let it go, Elena, for your own sake. She stood there in the hallway, watching him disappear around the corner, and felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger, not even frustration, just clarity. They weren't going to listen. That night, she stayed late again. The ICU was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the soft hiss of ventilators. Derek's room was at the end of the hall, away from the nursing station, easy to forget about. She pulled up her usual stool and checked his vitals. Heart rate 54. Respiration 12 breaths per minute. Blood pressure stable. Nothing remarkable. She opened her notebook and started writing. Day 9, 23:15. Right hand flexion observed at 22:47. Duration approximately 4 seconds. Coincided with audio stimulation, my voice. No preceding reflex trigger visible. Pupil response sluggish but present. Respiratory rate increased from 12 to 14 beats per minute during verbal engagement, returned to baseline within 3 minutes of silence. She leaned back and looked at him. Really looked. Not at the monitors or the charts or the clinical picture everyone else saw. Just at him. A man. Mid-30s maybe. Dark hair starting to gray at the temples. Calloused hands that spoke of work, of weight, of things carried for a long time. A small tattoo on his left forearm, coordinates, partially visible beneath the hospital gown. "Where is that?" she asked quietly, even though she knew he wouldn't answer. "Somewhere you've been? Somewhere you want to go back to?" His chest rose and fell, steady, mechanical. She pulled out her phone and typed the coordinates into a map app. A location popped up. Northeastern Syria, middle of nowhere, the kind of place that didn't exist on tourist maps, a place people went to fight. "You've seen some things, haven't you?" She set the phone down. "Yeah, me too." She told him about Kandahar, not the sanitized version she gave at job interviews or the vague allusions she made when someone asked about her background. The real version. The field hospital that took mortars twice a week. The 22-year-old private who came in with his legs gone and still tried to joke with her while she worked. The interpreter who bled out in her hands because they ran out of O negative and the resupply convoy got delayed. "Everyone said I got too attached," she said, "that I couldn't separate the mission from the people. My CO told me I was going to break if I didn't build walls." She paused. "I told him the walls were the problem, that the second you stop seeing them as people, you've already lost." Derek's fingers twitched. Just once. Barely visible. Elena's breath caught. She grabbed her phone and started recording. "Derek, if you can hear me, do that again." Nothing. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. His index finger curled inward, slow, deliberate. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She stopped the recording and played it back. Clear as day. Reproducible. Undeniable. She stood up, walked to the nursing station and found the night supervisor, a woman named Rita who'd been working ICU for 15 years and had seen everything twice. "Rita, I need you to witness something." Rita looked up from her charting. "What?" "Derek Hale, room 12. He's responding to verbal commands." Rita's expression didn't change. "Elena, I'm serious. I just recorded it. Come see." Rita sighed, set down her pen, and followed Elena back to the room. Elena positioned herself at Derek's bedside and held up her phone, still recording. "Derek, if you can hear me, move your right hand." They waited. Nothing happened. Rita crossed her arms. "Elena?" Derek's fingers curled inward. Rita went still. She stepped closer, leaning over the bed rail. "Do it again." Elena repeated the command. Derek's hand moved. Not much. Not fast. But unmistakable. Rita pulled out a penlight and checked his pupils. Sluggish but reactive. She ran her knuckles along his sternum, a sternal rub, one of the basic tests for responsiveness. Derek grimaced. Barely, but it was there. "That's..." Rita trailed off. She checked his chart, scanned the notes, looked back at Derek. "That's not in any of the documentation." "Because no one's been paying attention." Rita straightened up. Her face was unreadable. "I need to call Dr. Grayson." "Do it." Rita left. Elena stayed, her hand resting lightly on Derek's wrist, feeling the steady thrum of his pulse beneath her fingers. 20 minutes later, Grayson arrived. He looked rumpled, annoyed, and deeply skeptical. "Rita said you have new findings." "He's responding to commands." Grayson didn't even try to hide his doubt. He walked to the bedside and performed the same tests Rita had done. Verbal commands, sternal rub, pupil check. Derek responded. Minimally and consistently, but he responded. Grayson frowned. "This is unusual." "It's progress." It's reflexive response, possibly brainstem mediated. It doesn't indicate consciousness. He moved his hand when I asked him to. Correlation isn't causation, Elena. You know that. But his voice had lost some of its certainty. He checked the chart again, made a few notes, then looked at her. I'll order a repeat EEG in the morning. We'll see if there's any change in cortical activity. And until then? Until then, we continue current care. No changes to protocol. He paused. But I'll make a note that he's showing some level of stimulus response. That should be enough to table the ethics board discussion. It wasn't a victory, but it was something. Grayson left. Rita lingered for a moment. You might have just bought him more time. He bought himself more time. I just made sure someone noticed. Rita almost smiled. Get some rest, Elena. You look like hell. Elena didn't go home. She stayed until sunrise, documenting every response, every tiny sign that Derek was still in there fighting. By the time her shift officially started at 7, she had 12 pages of notes and 3 videos. She also had a meeting scheduled with charge nurse Linda Brennan. Linda's office was small and windowless, decorated with motivational posters that had lost their motivation sometime in the early 2000s. Linda sat behind her desk, hands folded, expression carefully neutral. Close the door, please. Elena did. Sit. She sat. Linda opened a folder. Elena recognized the hospital logo on the letterhead. An incident report. Dr. Grayson filed a formal concern about your conduct regarding the Hale case. Elena's stomach dropped, but she kept her face blank. What kind of concern? Excessive time spent on a single patient, unpaid overtime, emotional over-involvement. He's worried you're experiencing burnout and it's affecting your judgment. My judgment is fine. Is it? Linda looked up. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're obsessing over a patient who has no realistic chance of recovery. He responded to commands last night. Grayson witnessed it. He witnessed reflexive movement. That's not the same thing. It's enough to warrant further observation. Linda leaned back in her chair. Elena, I've known you for 3 years. You're one of the most dedicated nurses on this floor. You show up early, you stay late, you care about your patients in a way that's genuinely admirable. But this, she gestured at the folder. This is a pattern. Last month, you fought to keep Mrs. Kowalski on full support even after her family agreed to comfort care. 2 months before that, you petitioned to override a DNR on the stroke patient in room 4. Both of those patients died, Elena, despite your best efforts, despite your dedication. They died because that's what happens when the body stops fighting. Linda's voice softened. You can't save everyone, and trying to is going to destroy you. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. So what? I'm just supposed to give up? Stop trying. I'm saying you need to recognize when trying becomes harmful, to the patient, to the family, and to yourself. Linda closed the folder. I'm pulling you off the Hale case, effective immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. You can't do that. I can, and I am. Dr. Webb will take over as primary. You'll be reassigned to the surgical floor for the next 2 weeks. Linda, this isn't a punishment. It's a break. You need perspective. Linda's expression was firm, but not unkind. Take the rest of the day off. Come back tomorrow with a clear head. We'll talk about next steps then. Elena stood up. Her legs felt unsteady. If he dies because no one's watching him, then he dies. And that's not your fault. Linda met her eyes. Let it go, Elena. Elena walked out of the office, through the ICU, past Derek's room where a new nurse, someone younger, someone who didn't know him, was already adjusting his IV. She made it to the stairwell before the anger hit. She slammed her fist into the concrete wall. Once, twice. The pain felt good, clarifying. Then she pulled out her phone and called the one person she thought might understand. Her old CO, Major Sarah Vickers. Retired now, living somewhere in Montana, probably fishing and trying to forget the desert. The phone rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. This better be good, Ward. I'm 3 beers in. I need advice. Then you called the wrong person. I'm notoriously bad at advice. Sarah, I'm serious. The tone shifted. What's going on? Elena told her everything. Derek, the responses, the dismissals, the suspension. When she finished, there was a long silence. You still got your combat medic cert? Sarah finally asked. Yeah, why? Because it sounds like you're dealing with a lot of people who forgot what triage actually means. Sarah paused. You trust your instincts on this? Completely. Then screw the politics. You know what you saw. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Elena leaned against the wall, staring at the floor. I don't know. Yes, you do. You've always known. You're just scared to admit it. Sarah's voice was steady. You didn't quit on people in Kandahar when the situation went sideways. Don't start now. This isn't Kandahar. Isn't it? Man's down. Command's not listening. Resources are thin. Sounds pretty familiar to me. Elena closed her eyes. If I push this, I lose my job. Then you lose your job, but at least you'll be able to sleep at night. Sarah softened. Look, I can't tell you what to do, but I know you, Elena. And I know when you've already made up your mind, so stop pretending you haven't. The call ended. Elena stood there for a long time, phone in hand, breathing slowly. Then she went home. Her apartment was small and clean, the kind of place that didn't accumulate clutter because she was never there long enough to make a mess. She dropped her bag by the door, poured herself a glass of water, and sat on the couch. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Elena Ward? Yes? This is Captain Joel Rains with the Department of Defense. I'm calling regarding Corporal Derek Hale. Every nerve in her body went on alert. What about him? We've been trying to reach his attending physician for the past 72 hours. No one's returning our calls. We need an immediate status update on his condition. Why? There was a pause. Not hesitation, calculation. That's classified, but I need to know right now, is he stable? He was when I left 2 hours ago. When you left? Rain's tone sharpened. You're his primary nurse, correct? I was. I just got pulled from his case. Another pause. Longer this time. Pulled why? Elena exhaled slowly. For refusing to let him die quietly. The silence on the other end was different now, heavier. What's your full name and credentials? Elena Marie Ward, RN, BSN. Former Army Combat Medic 68W, served 2012 to 2016. Honorable discharge. Rank at discharge? Sergeant. She heard typing, fast. Then Rains's voice came back, sharper than before. Sergeant Ward, I need you to listen very carefully. Do not, under any circumstances, return to Redwood Heights Medical Center until I contact you again. Do not speak to anyone about this call. Do not discuss Corporal Hale's condition with hospital staff. Is that understood? What's going on? Just answer the question. Is that understood? Yes. Good. Stay by your phone. Someone will be in touch within the hour. The line went dead. Elena sat there, staring at the phone, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She'd heard that tone before. The clipped precision. The unspoken urgency. That was the voice of someone coordinating an operation. Her phone buzzed again. A text from the same unknown number. Do not return to Redwood Heights. Federal personnel en route. Stand by. Elena stood up and started pacing. Her mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Classified patient. Department of Defense involvement. Radio silence from the hospital. Derek wasn't just a Marine. He was something else. Her phone rang again. Different number this time. Redwood Heights switchboard. She answered. Elena, it's Linda. You need to come back now. I'm suspended. I don't care. Linda's voice was ragged, panicked, in a way Elena had never heard before. Something's happening with Hale. His vitals just spiked. BP's at 180 over 110. Heart rate's climbing. He's seizing. Grayson's trying to stabilize him, but nothing's working. We need you. Elena's blood turned to ice. I'm on my way. She hung up, grabbed her keys, and ran. The drive to the hospital took 8 minutes. She parked illegally, sprinted through the main entrance, and took the stairs to the ICU 2 at a time. The hallway was chaos. Alarms screaming, nurses running, a crash cart abandoned halfway down the corridor. She shoved through the crowd and into Derek's room. He was seizing, hard, his back arched off the bed, every muscle locked rigid, hands clawed into fists. The monitors were losing their minds. Oxygen saturation dropping, heart rate spiking past 140, blood pressure climbing into stroke territory. Grayson was at the bedside, shouting orders that no one could execute fast enough. Patel was trying to get an airway secured. 2 residents were fumbling with med doses. And in the middle of it all, Derek convulsed like his body was trying to tear itself apart. Elena moved on pure instinct. Propofol, 2 milligrams, IV push, now. A nurse, Rita, shoved the syringe into her hand without question. Elena didn't even look at it. She pushed the dose directly into Derek's line, then placed both hands on his chest and leaned in close. Derek, listen to my voice. You're safe. I'm here. I need you to breathe. His body didn't respond. Grayson looked at her, wild-eyed. Elena, what the hell are you? Get back! She pressed her hands harder against Derek's sternum, feeling the violent spasms beneath her palms. Derek, you're still fighting. I know you are. But I need you to stop fighting yourself. Breathe. Nothing. Sergeant Hale. Her voice dropped into command tone, the voice she'd used in field hospitals when soldiers were slipping away. You are not cleared to check out. Do you copy? You are not cleared. His body jerked once, twice, then went still. The monitor flatlined. For one horrible second, the entire room froze. Then the machine kicked back to life with a sharp beep. Derek's chest heaved. His oxygen levels started climbing. Heart rate began to drop. The seizing stopped. Grayson stared at the monitors, then at Elena, then back at the monitors. What did you... The door slammed open. 4 men in black tactical gear stormed in, weapons holstered but visible, radios crackling with traffic. Behind them, a man in a crisp military uniform stepped through. Silver hair, sharp eyes, chest covered in ribbons and insignia that meant things Elena hadn't thought about in years. He scanned the room in one sweep, taking in the chaos, the medical staff, the equipment. Then his eyes locked onto Elena. His expression shifted, just slightly. Sergeant Ward! The entire room went silent. Every nurse, every doctor, every resident turned to stare at her. Elena didn't move. Her hands stayed on Derek's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat returning to something close to normal. The officer stepped closer. His voice was calm, authoritative, unshakable. Step aside, Sergeant. We'll take it from here. Elena looked him dead in the eye. No. Grayson made a choking sound. Patel looked like she'd been slapped. Linda went pale. The officer raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? He's coding because someone tried to sedate him with the wrong protocol. Elena's voice was steady, clinical, utterly unafraid. If I step aside now, he's dead in 90 seconds. The officer studied her, not with anger, with assessment, the same way a commander evaluates a field asset under fire. Then he nodded once. Then save him. Elena turned back to Derek. She ignored the stunned silence around her, ignored the tactical team securing the room, ignored everything except the man in front of her. She leaned down, close enough that only he could hear. You're not done yet, Marine. So wake the hell up. Derek's eyes snapped open. Not slowly, not groggily. All at once, like someone surfacing from deep water. His pupils were blown wide, unfocused, but they were moving, tracking, searching. They found Elena. His lips moved. No sound came out at first. Then, barely a whisper, rough as gravel. Don't leave. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. Relief. Vindication. Something else she didn't have a name for. I'm not going anywhere. The room erupted. Grayson started barking orders. Patel was already adjusting monitors. Rita grabbed a crash cart. The tactical team secured the perimeter while the officer stepped to the bedside, his entire demeanor shifting from military precision to something quieter. He looked down at Derek, and for just a moment, his expression softened. Welcome back, Corporal. Derek's eyes tracked to him. Recognition flickered across his face. He tried to speak again, but Elena gently pressed a hand to his shoulder. Don't talk yet, just breathe. He did. The officer turned to Elena. I need a word. Outside. She glanced at Derek. He was stable now, vitals normalizing. Rita was already taking over monitoring. Elena followed the officer into the hallway. The tactical team stayed behind, securing the room with a level of seriousness that made it very clear this wasn't a standard medical situation. The officer closed the door and faced her. "Colonel Marcus Brennan, JSOC. You're Sergeant Elena Ward, formerly attached to the 274th Forward Surgical Team." "Yes, sir." "Your CO was Major Sarah Vickers." "Yes, sir." Brennan's expression was unreadable. "She spoke highly of you, said you were one of the best combat medics she ever worked with." Elena said nothing. "Corporal Hale is part of a classified unit. His status has been flagged at the highest levels for the past 9 days. We've been trying to coordinate his care remotely, but the hospital has been uncooperative." They didn't know who he was. They didn't need to know. They just needed to keep him alive. Brennan's voice hardened. Instead, they tried to pull the plug twice, filed him as a DNR candidate, ignored every status inquiry we sent. He paused. "And from what I understand, you're the only reason he's still breathing." Elena met his eyes. "I did my job." "You did more than that." Brennan glanced back at the room. "I need to know, what's his prognosis? Real answer. No hospital politics." "He's responsive, neurologically intact enough to follow commands and recognize voices, but he's been through severe trauma. Recovery's going to take time." "How much time?" "Weeks, maybe months. Depends on the support he gets." Brennan nodded slowly. "Then he's getting it. As of right now, this case is under military jurisdiction. We're transferring him to Walter Reed within the hour." Elena felt a strange pang at that. Relief that Derek would get the care he needed, and something else. Loss, maybe. Understood. Brennan studied her. "You're out of the service. Why'd you fight so hard for him?" She didn't answer right away. Then, "Because someone had to." He almost smiled. "Major Vickers said you'd say something like that." He pulled a card from his pocket and handed it to her. "My direct line. If you ever decide you want back in, real medical work, not hospital bureaucracy, call me. We could use someone like you." Elena took the card but didn't look at it. "I'll think about it." "Do that." Brennan turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Sergeant, you made the right call, every single time." He walked away, already on his radio coordinating the transfer. Elena stood there in the hallway, card in hand, watching as the tactical team began prepping Derek for transport. Through the door, she could see him, still weak, still disoriented, but alive, fighting. Linda appeared beside her, looking shell-shocked. "Elena, I don't even know what to say." "Then don't." "You were military. This whole time you were—" "I was a medic. I still am." Elena looked at her. "I told you he was responsive. I told you he needed more time. No one listened." Linda opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to him." Elena walked away before Linda could respond. She went to the staff locker room, grabbed her things, and left through the back entrance. She didn't say goodbye, didn't file a report, just walked out into the parking lot and sat in her car for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sarah Vickers. "Heard you made some noise. Proud of you, kid." Elena smiled. Just a little. Then she drove home, poured herself a drink she didn't finish, and sat on her couch as the sun set outside her window. Somewhere across the city, Derek Hale was being loaded into a military medical transport, surrounded by people who finally understood what he was worth. And Elena Ward, the nurse no one had listened to, the medic everyone had underestimated, sat alone in her apartment, holding a business card from a colonel who saw exactly who she was. She didn't know what came next, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she'd done something that mattered. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered. "Sergeant Ward, this is Captain Rains. I wanted to personally thank you for your service to Corporal Hale. Your actions likely saved his life." "Just doing my job, Captain." "With all due respect, ma'am, you did a hell of a lot more than that." Rains paused. "Colonel Brennan will be in touch regarding next steps. But I wanted you to know what you did today won't be forgotten." The call ended. Elena set the phone down and looked at the card Brennan had given her. A direct line. An offer. A way back. She thought about Derek's eyes when they'd opened, the recognition, the trust, the silent understanding between two people who'd both fought their way back from edges no one else could see. She thought about the hospital, the dismissals, the condescension, the bureaucracy that valued protocol over people. And she thought about what Sarah had said. You didn't quit on people in Kandahar when the situation went sideways. Don't start now. Elena stood up, walked to her desk, and pinned Brennan's card to the bulletin board above it. Then she opened her laptop and started typing. A formal complaint, detailed documentation, every dismissal, every ignored observation, every moment the hospital had chosen policy over a patient's life. She wasn't done fighting, she was just getting started. The complaint took her 4 hours to write. Every word measured, every detail cross-referenced with timestamps, witness names, and hospital policy violations. She cited specific protocols that had been ignored, documented the chain of dismissals, and attached every photo and video she'd taken of Derek's responses. By the time she hit send to the State Nursing Board, the Medical Ethics Committee, and the hospital's Corporate Oversight Division, it was past midnight. Her phone rang at 6 in the morning. She answered on the second ring, already awake, coffee in hand. Sergeant Ward, this is Colonel Brennan. We need to talk. In person. When? Now. I'm sending a car. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside her apartment. No government plates. No markings. Just a driver in civilian clothes who opened the rear door without a word. Elena got in. They drove in silence through empty streets, past the hospital where she'd worked for 3 years, past the downtown corridor where early morning joggers were just starting their routes. The city looked different in this light, smaller somehow, less permanent. The SUV pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a building she didn't recognize. The driver led her to an elevator that required a key card, then up 12 floors to a corridor that smelled like fresh paint and government budgets. Brennan was waiting in a conference room with glass walls and a view of the entire city. He wasn't alone. 2 other officers sat at the table, one Navy, one Air Force, both with enough ribbons on their chest to suggest they'd earned their seats the hard way. Sergeant Ward, thank you for coming, Brennan gestured to a chair. This is Commander Lisa Oakes, Naval Special Warfare, and Lieutenant Colonel James Pruitt, Air Force Special Operations. Elena sat. What's this about? Derek Hale, Brennan said simply. And you. Oakes slid a folder across the table. Elena opened it. Inside were copies of her service record, her medical certifications, her deployment history. Everything she'd done between 2012 and 2016 laid out in bureaucratic detail. You were attached to some heavy units, Pruitt said. His voice was quieter than she expected. Southern accent. Mississippi, maybe. 1st Cavalry Rangers even did a rotation with a Marine recon element in Helmand. I went where they needed medics. You went where other medics wouldn't, Oakes corrected. Your CO wrote in your evaluation that you volunteered for the worst postings, high casualty rates, extended combat exposure. You were pulling trauma cases that would have broken most doctors. Elena didn't respond. She knew where this was going. Brennan leaned forward. Corporal Hale isn't just any Marine. He's part of a joint task force that operates in environments where medical support is limited. When he went down, he was 300 miles from the nearest military hospital. By the time we got him stateside, he'd been in rough shape for 18 hours. And you brought him to Redwood Heights, Elena said. Why? Because it was close to his home of record, and we needed him stable before transferring to Walter Reed. What we didn't anticipate was the hospital's complete failure to recognize what they were dealing with. Brennan's jaw tightened. Or that they'd try to kill him. They weren't trying to kill him, they just didn't care enough to save him. Same result. Elena looked at the 3 officers, at their careful expressions and their coordinated presence, and understood. You're not here to thank me. We're here to recruit you, Oakes said bluntly. We need medics who can operate in high-stress environments with minimal oversight, people who make the right call when everyone else is saying it's impossible. She tapped the folder. You've already proven you can do that. I'm out. Have been for 6 years. You could be back in, Brennan said. Different capacity, better pay. Full autonomy on medical decisions. You'd be attached to units like Hales, small teams, high-value operations, situations where a good medic is worth their weight in gold. Elena set down her coffee. And if I say no? Then you go back to fighting hospital administrators who don't respect you and dealing with doctors who think you're too emotional. Pruitt's voice was matter-of-fact. We've already heard from Redwood Heights. They're preparing a countercomplaint, claiming you violated patient confidentiality, exceeded your scope of practice, and endangered staff during a medical emergency. Her blood went cold. That's bullshit. Of course it is, but they have lawyers and a PR department. What do you have? Elena stared at him, then at Brennan, then at Oakes. I have the truth. Truth doesn't win battles, Oakes said quietly. Leverage does. And right now they have more of it than you do. Brennan pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. Unless you let us help, we can make the counter-complaint disappear. We can ensure your nursing license stays intact. We can even arrange for certain facts about Redwood Heights' handling of a classified military patient to become public record. He slid the folder toward her. Or you can fight this alone and hope the truth is enough. Elena opened the folder. Inside were legal documents, transfer orders, contract terms, everything laid out in precise military language. A job offer, a way out, a escape hatch from the mess she'd just stepped into. She closed the folder. I need time to think. You have 24 hours, Brennan said. After that, the offer expires and you're on your own. Elena stood. Then I'll call you in 24 hours. She left the same way she'd come. The SUV dropped her back at her apartment without conversation. She walked inside, locked the door, and stood in her kitchen staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Heard you got an interesting offer. Don't do anything stupid. Elena almost laughed. She typed back, define stupid. Turning down a good opportunity because you're stubborn. What if the opportunity comes with strings? Everything comes with strings. Question is whether you're okay with who's holding them. Elena set the phone down. She knew Sarah was right. She also knew that taking Brennan's offer meant walking away from something she'd spent 6 years building. A civilian life. A career that didn't involve bullets and trauma and watching people die in places that didn't exist on maps. But staying meant fighting a system that had already shown it didn't want her. She spent the rest of the day running, 10 miles through the city, past the river, up into the hills where the houses thinned out and the air got cleaner. She ran until her legs burned and her lungs screamed and her mind finally went quiet. When she got back, there was a message on her phone. Linda Brennan. She almost deleted it. Then she listened. Elena, it's Linda. I don't know if you're even taking calls right now, but I wanted you to know that the hospital board met this morning. They're moving forward with a formal investigation into your conduct. Dr. Grayson and Dr. Patel both gave statements. It doesn't look good. A pause. I tried to speak up for you. I told them what you did for Hale was right. They didn't want to hear it. I'm sorry. The message ended. Elena deleted it. Then she called Brennan. He answered immediately. Sergeant Ward, I'll take the job on one condition. Name it. I want full medical authority on any case I'm assigned. No second guessing, no overrides. If I say someone lives, they live. Brennan was quiet for a moment. Agreed. Report to Fort Bragg Monday morning. Someone will meet you at the gate. I'll be there. She hung up and sat down on her couch, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her like a physical thing. She'd just agreed to go back into the world she'd spent 6 years trying to leave, back to war zones and trauma cases, and the kind of medicine that happened when all the rules fell apart. But at least this time, people would listen. Her phone rang again, different number. She didn't recognize it. This is Elena? Miss Ward, my name is Richard Stanton. I'm the Chief Legal Counsel for Redwood Heights Medical Center. I'm calling to inform you that the hospital intends to pursue legal action regarding your conduct in the Derek Hale case. We're prepared to file a civil suit for damages related to... Stop talking. Stanton paused. Excuse me? I said stop talking, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop whatever you're planning. You're going to issue a public apology, and you're going to pay me 6 months severance. Stanton laughed. Actually laughed. Miss Ward, I don't think you understand the seriousness of... No, you don't understand. Derek Hale is a classified military asset. Your hospital interfered with a DoD operation. You tried to terminate care on a patient whose case was flagged at the highest levels. And when a qualified medical professional, me, tried to prevent that, you suspended her. Elena's voice was ice. So here's the deal. Drop it now or I make sure every detail of your negligence ends up in front of a congressional committee. The line went silent. You're bluffing. Try me. Stanton hung up. Elena sat there, phone in hand, adrenaline buzzing through her veins. She had no idea if she could actually follow through on that threat, but it felt good to say it. Her phone rang again 10 minutes later. Brennan. I just got a very interesting call from Redwood Heights legal team. They want to know if the military has any objections to them pursuing action against you. What did you tell them? I told them that any legal action against a civilian consultant working on a classified case would be considered obstruction. Then I suggested they might want to reconsider their strategy. Brennan sounded amused. They hung up pretty quickly after that. Elena felt something loosen in her chest. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You just made some powerful enemies. Hospital administrators don't forget. Good. Neither do I. She hung up and looked around her apartment, at the life she'd built, the normalcy she'd fought for, the distance she'd put between herself and the desert, and the blood and the weight of carrying people back from edges they shouldn't have survived. She'd thought civilian life would be easier. Turned out, some fights followed you no matter where you went. Monday morning came faster than she expected. She packed light, 2 bags, mostly clothes and a few personal items. Everything else could stay. She didn't know if she'd be coming back. The drive to Fort Bragg took 4 hours. She arrived at the gate just after noon, gave her name, and was waved through by guards who clearly knew she was coming. A corporal met her at the visitor center and drove her to a building on the far side of the base, away from the main training areas. Brennan was waiting inside, along with Oakes and 2 other people she didn't recognize. One was a man in his 50s with the weathered look of someone who'd spent too much time in the sun. The other was a woman, younger, with sharp eyes and the kind of posture that came from carrying weight. Sergeant Ward, welcome, Brennan gestured to the others. This is Dr. Marcus Hollis, our senior trauma physician, and Captain Amy Reeves, Special Operations Liaison. Hollis extended a hand. His grip was firm. Heard good things about you. Don't believe everything you hear, he smiled. I heard you told a room full of doctors they were wrong and then proved it. That's exactly the kind of thing I believe. Reeves didn't offer her hand. She just nodded. You'll be working with my teams, small units, high-risk environments. Your job is to keep them alive when things go wrong. Things always go wrong, Elena said. Then you'll fit right in. Brennan led her down a hallway to a smaller office. Inside were files, equipment manifests, deployment schedules, everything she'd need to get up to speed. You'll start with a 2-week orientation, Brennan said. Refresher on trauma protocols, weapons qualifications, survival training. After that, you'll be assigned to a team. Which team? That depends on where you're needed. Brennan pulled out a tablet and showed her a map. Red dots scattered across the Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia. We have units operating in 12 countries. Most of them don't officially exist. When someone gets hurt, you go in, stabilize them, and get them out. Elena studied the map. What about Derek? He's at Walter Reed, recovering well thanks to you. He'll be back in the field in 3 months. That fast? He's motivated. Brennan set down the tablet. He also asked about you, wanted to know if you were okay. Something tightened in Elena's chest. What did you tell him? That you were moving on to bigger things. Brennan met her eyes. He said to tell you thank you, and that he owed you one. Elena nodded slowly. She didn't trust herself to speak. Brennan left her alone with the files. She spent the next hour reading through case histories, mission reports, casualty rates. The numbers were brutal, but they were also honest. No bureaucracy. No ethics boards debating whether someone deserved to live. Just medics making calls in real time and living with the results. She thought about Derek, about his eyes opening, about the moment she'd known, absolutely known, that he was still in there fighting. She thought about the hospital, about Grayson's dismissiveness and Patel's condescension and Linda's pity. She thought about what Sarah had said. You didn't quit on people in Kandahar when the situation went sideways. Elena closed the files and stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the base. Soldiers running drills, helicopters lifting off in the distance, the machinery of war grinding along like it always had. She tried to walk away from this. Turned out, it had been waiting for her the whole time. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. "Heard you joined the team. Good luck. You'll need it." Derek Elena smiled, typed back, "You're supposed to be recovering. Recovering is boring. When are you deploying?" 2 weeks. Try not to save too many lives before I get back. I've got a reputation to maintain." Elena laughed. Actually laughed. It felt strange. Good. She pocketed her phone and walked back to the main building. Reeves was waiting outside, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Hollis wants to run you through a scenario. You up for it? Now?" "No time like the present." Elena followed her to a training facility that looked like a cross between a hospital and a combat zone. Makeshift structures. Simulated casualties, the smell of smoke machines and fake blood. Hollis was already inside setting up equipment. "We're going to run a mass casualty drill. Multiple wounded, limited supplies, no backup. You'll have 2 medics assisting you. Your job is to prioritize and execute." How realistic? Realistic enough to matter. Hollis handed her a tactical vest with medical pouches. "You've got 10 minutes to prep. Then we start." Elena strapped on the vest and checked the supplies. Tourniquets, hemostatic gauze, airways, chest seals. The basics. Enough to keep someone alive if you knew what you were doing. Not enough if you didn't. The drill started with an explosion, simulated but loud enough to make her ears ring. Then the casualties started appearing. Actors, made up to look like they'd been hit by shrapnel, gunfire, blast injuries. Some screaming, some silent, some already gone. Elena moved through them like she'd never left the desert. Tourniquet on the leg wound, chest seal on the sucking chest wound, airway on the unconscious casualty with labored breathing. Her hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over. One of the assisting medics froze when a casualty started seizing. "What do I do?" "Protect the airway. Lay him on his side. Don't try to stop the seizure." "But do it! Now!" The medic moved. Elena kept working. She tagged the critical cases, marked the expectant ones, the ones who wouldn't make it no matter what she did, focused resources where they'd matter most. Hollis watched from the side, saying nothing. When the drill ended, Elena had saved 8 out of 12 casualties. The 4 she'd lost were the ones who'd been too far gone from the start. Hollis walked over, checked her tags, reviewed her decisions. Then he nodded. "You didn't hesitate. That's good. Most people freeze the first time." "This isn't my first time." "I know. That's why you're here." Hollis pulled off his gloves. "You made the right calls. All of them. Even the hard ones." Elena looked at the simulated casualties being cleared away, at the fake blood and the props and the controlled chaos. It was close to the real thing. Close enough to remind her why she'd left. Close enough to remind her why she'd come back. Reeves appeared beside her. "Impressive. Hollis doesn't give compliments often." "He didn't give me one. He just said I did my job." "From him, that is a compliment." Reeves studied her. "You're going to deploy with Alpha Team. 6 operators, high-value targets, deep insertions. They lose people sometimes. Your job is to make sure they don't." "When do I meet them?" "Tomorrow. They're finishing up a rotation in Somalia. They'll be back by nightfall." Elena nodded. Her mind was already shifting gears, moving from the drill to the real thing. To the moment when the casualties wouldn't be actors and the blood wouldn't wash off. That night, she lay in the barracks assigned to her, small, clean, functional, and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the hospital, about the complaint she'd filed, about the life she'd walked away from. She wondered if she'd made the right choice. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. "How's it feel to be back?" Elena thought about it, then typed, "Like I never left." "Good. That means you're where you're supposed to be." Elena set the phone down and closed her eyes. Sleep came slowly. When it did, she dreamed of Derek's eyes opening, of the moment she'd known he was going to make it, of the hospital staff staring at her like she was someone they'd never seen before. She woke at dawn to the sound of helicopters. Alpha Team was back. Reeves found her at breakfast. "They want to meet you. Briefing room, 10 minutes." Elena finished her coffee and followed. The briefing room was smaller than she expected. 6 men sat around a table, all of them looking like they hadn't slept in days. Dirty uniforms, sunburned faces, the kind of exhaustion that came from too many missions with too little downtime. The one at the head of the table looked up when she walked in. Early 40s, scar running down his left cheek, eyes that missed nothing. "You the new medic?" Elena Ward. Staff Sergeant Kyle Mercer, team lead. He gestured to the others. "That's Bishop, Rains, Donnelly, Park, and Shu. You'll learn who's who when it matters." Elena nodded, took a seat. Mercer studied her. "Heard you pulled a Marine back from a coma. That true?" "He pulled himself back. I just made sure no one gave up on him." "Good answer." Mercer leaned back. "We operate in places where evacuation isn't an option. You'll be the only medical asset we have. That means when shit goes wrong, and it will, you're the one making the call on who lives and who doesn't. You comfortable with that?" Elena met his eyes. "I've done it before." "Combat?" "Kandahar, Mosul, Helmand, 4 years, multiple tours." Mercer glanced at the others. Something passed between them, an unspoken assessment. "All right," Mercer said finally, "we deploy in 72 hours. Yemen, extraction op. High probability of contact. Pack light and be ready to move fast." Elena stood. "I'll be ready." She walked out, feeling 6 pairs of eyes on her back, evaluating, judging, deciding whether she was worth the risk. She didn't care. She had 72 hours to prepare. She spent them in the training facility, running drills, reviewing protocols, and packing her med kit with obsessive precision. Every piece of equipment had a place. Every supply had a backup. On the 3rd day, Reeves found her in the armory, checking her sidearm. "Mercer's team has a 92% survival rate. Best in the command." "What about the other 8%? Reeves didn't answer right away. "They were situations no one could have fixed, but that doesn't mean the team doesn't carry it." Elena holstered the weapon. "I'll do my job. They do theirs." It's not that simple. Out there the lines blur. You're not just a medic, you're part of the team, and when things go wrong, they'll expect you to fight alongside them. "I can handle myself." "I know. That's why you're going." Reeves handed her a folder. "Mission brief. Read it on the plane. Wheels up at 0400. Elena took the folder and walked back to her quarters. She didn't open it until she was alone. Inside were satellite images, intelligence reports, personnel files. A target, a timeline, a plan, and a casualty estimate. She read it twice. Then she packed her gear and tried to sleep. At 3:30 in the morning, she was on the tarmac, waiting. Alpha Team arrived 10 minutes later, moving like shadows. They boarded the transport without conversation. Elena followed. The plane lifted off into darkness, engines roaring, carrying them towards something she couldn't see yet. Mercer sat across from her, eyes closed, arms crossed. The others were scattered throughout the cargo hold, each lost in their own pre-mission rituals. Elena pulled out the mission brief and read it again. The target was a high-value individual. The extraction window was tight. The probability of resistance was high. She thought about Derek, about the moment she'd refused to step aside, about the choice she had made to come back. The plane banked hard, turning southeast, toward the fire. The plane touched down on a dirt strip somewhere in the Arabian Peninsula. Elena didn't ask which country. The brief had been clear enough. Places like this didn't exist on official maps. The rear ramp dropped and heat slammed into them like a physical force. 108 degrees, even at dawn. Alpha Team moved off the transport without waiting for orders. Elena grabbed her med kit and followed, boots hitting sand that hadn't seen rain in months. 2 vehicles waited at the edge of the strip, beat-up trucks that looked local enough to blend in. Mercer climbed into the lead vehicle. Elena took the second with Bishop and Rains. Bishop drove. Rains checked his weapon. Neither spoke. They rolled out across terrain that looked like the surface of a dead planet. Nothing but rock and sand and heat shimmer for miles. Elena checked her supplies one more time. Tourniquets, hemostatic agents, airway kit, chest seals, IV setup, morphine, everything in its place. The comm unit in her ear crackled. 10 minutes to target. Mercer's voice, flat, professional. Elena looked out the window. Somewhere ahead was a compound. Inside that compound was someone important enough to risk 6 operators and a medic. The brief had mentioned hostile forces in the area. Militia, well-armed, unpredictable. Standard Tuesday, apparently. The vehicle stopped 2 clicks out. Alpha Team dismounted and moved into formation without discussion. Elena stayed close to Mercer, matching his pace, keeping her profile low. The sun was climbing fast now. By noon it would be unbearable. They covered the distance on foot. No roads, no trails. Just open ground and the constant awareness that someone might be watching. Mercer raised a fist. Everyone stopped. He pointed. Elena followed his line of sight and saw it. A cluster of buildings, low and earth-colored, barely distinguishable from the landscape. Walls, guard towers, movement. Park, Chu, perimeter. Bishop Donnelly, entry team. Rains, Overwatch. Ward, you're with me. They split without hesitation. Elena followed Mercer toward the compound, her medical kit suddenly feeling heavier than it should. She'd trained for this. She'd done this before. But there was something different about doing it now, 6 years removed, with a team she'd known for less than a week. They reached the outer wall. Bishop and Donnelly moved to the gate. Shape charges, quick and quiet. The explosion was small but effective. The gate blew inward and Alpha Team poured through. Elena stayed on Mercer's 6, scanning for threats while her brain calculated triage priorities. The compound was bigger inside than it looked from outside. Multiple buildings, narrow alleys between them. Too many places to hide. Gunfire erupted from the left. Rains' voice came through the comm, steady and cold. Contact, 2 hostiles, northwest corner, engaging. More gunfire, then silence. Clear. They moved deeper. Elena's heart hammered, but her hands stayed steady. She'd learned a long time ago that fear was just information. It told you to pay attention. It didn't get to make decisions. Bishop kicked in a door, swept the room, came back out shaking his head. Empty. Mercer checked the next building. Also empty. Park, status? Perimeter secure, no movement. Copy. Continue search. They cleared 4 more buildings before finding anything. When they did, it wasn't what Elena expected. Inside the 5th structure, tied to a chair in the center of a bare room, was a man. Mid-40s. Western features. Badly beaten. Blood crusted around his nose and mouth. His breathing was labored, each inhale a wet rattle that meant internal bleeding or worse. Mercer moved to him, checked for traps, then cut the restraints. The man slumped forward. Elena caught him and lowered him to the floor, already assessing. Broken ribs. Possible pneumothorax. Facial fractures. Dehydration. Shock. I need light. Bishop aimed his weapon light at the casualty. Elena worked fast. Airways first. She tilted his head back, cleared his mouth, listened to his breathing. The rattle was worse up close. Definitely a pneumo. I need to decompress his chest or he's going to code. Mercer didn't question it. Do it. Elena pulled a needle decompression kit from her bag. 14-gauge catheter. She palpated the man's chest, found the second intercostal space, and pushed the needle through. There was a hiss of escaping air. The man's breathing eased slightly. Who is he? Elena asked, not looking up. CIA contractor, missing for 3 days. Intel said he was here. Looks like Intel was right for once. The contractor's eyes fluttered open. He tried to speak, but only managed a groan. Don't talk, Elena said. You've got broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Save your energy. His hand grabbed her wrist, weak but insistent. He tried again. Ambush. Elena looked at Mercer. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Say again. The contractor's grip tightened. They knew you were coming. The comm unit exploded with noise. Contact! Multiple hostiles, east side! RPG, get down! The explosion shook the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. Elena threw herself over the contractor, shielding him with her body. Mercer was already moving, weapon up, barking orders. Donnelly, suppressing fire. Park, collapse the perimeter. We're extracting now. More gunfire, closer this time. Elena could hear rounds impacting the walls outside. She looked down at the contractor. He was fading, eyes losing focus. Stay with me, she said. Not a request, a command. She grabbed her kit and pulled out an IV setup. His veins were collapsed from dehydration, but she found one in his forearm and got the line in on the first try. Saline started flowing. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to buy time. Ward, we need to move. Mercer was at the door, returning fire. He can't walk. Then carry him. Elena looked at the contractor. 170, maybe 180. She weighed 130 soaking wet. The math didn't work. Bishop appeared beside her. I got him. He hauled the contractor up in a fireman's carry like the man weighed nothing. Elena grabbed her kit and followed them out into chaos. The compound was lit up. Muzzle flashes from 3 directions, rounds snapping through the air close enough to feel. Rains was on a rooftop laying down cover fire. Park and Shu were falling back toward the extraction point. Mercer led them through the maze of buildings, moving fast but controlled. Elena stayed close to Bishop, one hand on the contractor's back, monitoring his breathing. Still labored, still wet. The needle decompression had helped, but it wasn't a permanent fix. They made it to the outer wall. The trucks were 50 meters away across open ground. Smoke! Mercer threw a canister. It hissed and billowed, creating a screen. They ran. Elena's legs burned. The heat was crushing. She could hear Bishop's breathing, heavy with the weight he was carrying. Behind them, the gunfire intensified. 20 meters from the trucks, the contractor started seizing. Stop! Elena yelled. Bishop didn't stop. We're sitting ducks out here. If he aspirates, he's dead. Bishop cursed but stopped. Set the contractor down hard. Elena dropped beside him, rolled him on his side, protected his airway. The seizure lasted 15 seconds, felt like 15 minutes. When it stopped, his breathing was barely there. He's crashing. Get him in the truck. Now. They moved. Bishop threw the contractor into the back of the lead vehicle. Elena climbed in after him. The rest of Alpha Team piled in and the trucks tore out across the desert, kicking up rooster tails of dust and sand. Elena worked in the back of a moving vehicle, doing 60 over terrain that felt like a demolition derby. She got another IV line in, pushed fluids, checked the chest decompression. The contractor's pressure was dropping. She could feel his pulse getting thready. How's he doing? Mercer called back from the front. Not great. He needs a hospital. Closest one is 2 hours away. He doesn't have 2 hours. Mercer got on the radio, started coordinating an emergency evac. Elena kept working. The contractor's eyes opened again. He looked at her with the kind of clarity people sometimes get right before the end. They knew, he whispered. Someone told them. Then his eyes rolled back and his heart stopped. Elena didn't think. She started compressions. In a moving truck. On uneven ground. With limited space and worse positioning. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 more. Her arms burned. Her back screamed. She didn't stop. Come on, don't you quit on me. She pushed another round of epinephrine, kept compressing. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. Bishop watched from the front seat, his face unreadable. 4 minutes. Shake. The contractor's heart kicked back. Weak but present. Elena checked for a pulse. Found one. Barely. She sat back, breathing hard, sweat pouring down her face. Got him back. Mercer didn't take his eyes off the road. Keep him that way. They made it to the airstrip in 40 minutes. A medevac helicopter was already waiting, rotors turning. Elena and Bishop transferred the contractor. A flight medic took over, shouting questions Elena answered in rapid-fire shorthand. Pneumothorax decompressed, 2 IVs running, coded once, got him back. Internal bleeding suspected, needs trauma surgery immediately. The flight medic nodded and they were gone. Helicopter lifting off into air that shimmered with heat. Elena stood there, covered in blood and dust, watching it disappear. Mercer walked over. Good work. He might not make it, but he's got a chance. That's more than he had an hour ago. Mercer pulled off his helmet. His hair was soaked with sweat. You did your job. That's all anyone can ask. Alpha Team loaded back onto the transport. The plane lifted off and turned west, back toward base. Elena sat in the cargo hold, staring at nothing, feeling the adrenaline drain out of her system and leave behind something cold and heavy. Park sat down across from her. He was the youngest on the team, mid-20s. Barely looked old enough to vote. First mission back? He asked. Yeah. How's it feel? Elena looked at her hands, still shaking slightly. Ask me when I can feel my arms again. Park almost smiled. You did good out there. Most medics freeze the first time someone codes in the field. I've had practice. The flight back took 6 hours. Elena slept for maybe 20 minutes of it. The rest of the time she replayed the mission, cataloging mistakes, noting what worked and what didn't. The contractor had said something about an ambush, about someone knowing they were coming. She thought about that, turned it over in her mind, tried to make it fit with what she knew. It didn't. They landed at Bragg just after sunset. Reeves was waiting on the tarmac with an expression that suggested bad news was incoming. Debrief in 30, all of you. The team dispersed to clean up. Elena went to her quarters, peeled off her gear, and stood under a shower that ran cold because she'd used up all the hot water and didn't care. She watched the blood and sand swirl down the drain and tried not to think about how easily she'd slipped back into this. The debrief took place in the same conference room where she'd first met Brennan. This time, there were more people. Officers she didn't recognize, intelligence analysts, someone from the State Department. Mercer ran through the mission. Objectives met. Hostile casualties unknown. Friendly casualties 0. Asset recovered and en route to medical care. Then Brennan asked the question Elena had been waiting for. The asset said something about an ambush. What exactly did he tell you? Mercer looked at Elena. She kept her voice level. He said they knew we were coming, that someone told them. The room went quiet. That's impossible, one of the intelligence analysts said. Mission parameters were classified. Only 12 people knew the target location. Then one of those 12 people talked, Elena said. The analyst bristled. That's a serious accusation. It's what he said. Brennan held up a hand. We'll investigate. In the meantime, Alpha Team is grounded pending security review. Mercer's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. The meeting ended. Elena walked out into the hallway and found Reeves waiting. Walk with me. They walked, past the barracks, past the training facilities, out to the edge of the base where the lights thinned out and you could see stars. The contractor died 20 minutes ago, Reeves said quietly. Bled out internally before they could get him into surgery. Elena stopped walking, felt something crack open in her chest. I got his heart started. You did. You bought him an extra hour, but it wasn't enough. It should have been. Reeves turned to face her. You can't save everyone, Elena. You know that. Everyone keeps telling me that. Because it's true. And because you keep forgetting it. But Reeves's voice was kind, but firm. You did everything right out there. Everything. But sometimes right isn't enough. Sometimes people die anyway. Elena looked at the sky, at stars that were the same stars she'd seen in Kandahar and Mosul and a dozen other places where people had died despite her best efforts. He said someone leaked the mission. I know. We're looking into it. What if it's true? Then we find out who and we deal with it. Reeves paused. But that's not your job. Your job is to keep Alpha Team alive. Can you do that? Elena thought about the contractor seizing in the back of a truck, about compressions that worked until they didn't, about the fine line between saving someone and watching them slip away. I can do my job. Good, because Mercer's already requested you permanent for his team. That doesn't happen often. Elena looked at her. Why? Because you didn't freeze. Because you made the hard calls. Because when that man's heart stopped, you fought for him like he was the only person in the world. Reeves met her eyes. That's the kind of medic they need. The kind who doesn't quit. Elena went back to her quarters and tried to sleep. It didn't work. At 0200, she gave up and went to the gym, ran on the treadmill until her legs gave out, lifted weights until her arms shook. Anything to stop thinking. Her phone buzzed at 0400. Text from Derek. Heard about Yemen. You okay? Elena stared at the message, wondered how he'd heard, wondered why he cared. She typed back, lost one. The response came immediately. First one back? Yeah, it gets easier, does it? A longer pause this time, then, no, but you get better at carrying it. Elena set the phone down. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the wall and felt the weight of the contractor's death settle over her like a familiar coat. She told herself civilian medicine would be different, cleaner, more controlled. But it hadn't been. The same fights, the same dismissals, the same sense of swimming upstream against people who didn't see what she saw. At least here, people listened. At least here, when she said someone was worth saving, they believed her, even if it didn't always work. Morning came. Elena reported to the briefing room and found Alpha Team already there. Mercer looked like he hadn't slept either. "Security review's done," he said without preamble. "They cleared us. No leak from our end." "Then where did it come from?" Bishop asked. "Don't know. Don't care. We've got a new mission." Mercer pulled up a map on the screen. Syria this time. "High-value target. Intelligence says he's planning something big. We go in, grab him, get out." "When?" Elena asked. 48 hours. The team dispersed to prepare. Elena went to the armory, checked her medical supplies, ran through scenarios in her head. Pneumothorax, traumatic amputation, hemorrhagic shock, spinal injury. Every nightmare she could think of, she prepped for. Hollis found her there. "Heard about Yemen. Rough first mission back." "I've had worse." "I'm sure you have." He sat down on a bench. "You know what the difference is between a good medic and a great one?" "What?" "A good medic saves the ones who can be saved. A great medic tries to save them all anyway." He looked at her. "You're a great medic, but that comes with a cost. You need to make peace with that." "I'm not interested in peace. I'm interested in keeping people alive." Hollis stood. "Then you're going to have a long career and a short life. Think about which one matters more." He left. Elena stayed in the armory until Reeves came to find her. "You need rest. I need to be ready." "You're already ready. What you need is sleep." Reeves pulled her to her feet. "That's an order." Elena went back to her quarters, lay down, stared at the ceiling. Eventually exhaustion won and she slept. She dreamed about the contractor, about compressions that went on forever, about a heart that wouldn't restart no matter how hard she tried. She woke at noon, drenched in sweat, and knew she couldn't do this for 48 hours. She needed a distraction. She found it in the form of a phone call. Unknown number. She answered. "Sergeant Ward, this is Major Tom Vickers, Office of Special Investigations. I need to ask you some questions about the Yemen operation." Elena sat up. "What kind of questions?" "Classified ones. Can you come to Building 7? "When?" "Now." She dressed and walked across base. Building 7 was intelligence. Secure rooms, no windows, the kind of place where conversations didn't leave. Major Vickers was waiting inside. Late 40s, tired eyes, the look of someone who'd spent too long chasing shadows. "Have a seat." Elena sat. "The contractor you pulled out of Yemen before he died, he made some claims. About a leak. About the mission being compromised." Vickers leaned forward. "What exactly did he tell you?" "That they knew we were coming, that someone told them." "Did he say who?" "He didn't get the chance. He coded right after." Vickers made a note. "And you performed CPR?" "Yes." "For how long?" 5 minutes, maybe 6. "That's a long time in a moving vehicle." "He was worth it." Vickers looked at her, really looked. "You believe him? About the leak?" Elena thought about the compound, about how ready the ambush had been, about the timing. "Yeah, I do." "So do we, which means someone with access to classified mission data is feeding information to hostile forces." Vickers pulled out a file. "We've narrowed it down to 7 possible sources. All of them have the clearance. All of them had access to the Yemen operation details." He slid photos across the table. Elena looked at them. Officers, analysts, people she'd never met. Then she saw the last one. Her blood turned to ice. Dr. Raymond Grayson, Redwood Heights Medical Center. "Why is he in here?" Her voice came out steady even though her heart was slamming. "Because 18 months ago, he did a consulting contract with a defense contractor, medical advisory. Part of his clearance process involved deep background checks. Turns out he has some interesting financial connections." Vickers tapped the photo. "He's been receiving payments from an offshore account linked to a known arms dealer. Small amounts. Regular. Started about 6 months ago." Elena stared at the photo, at the man who'd dismissed her, who'd tried to pull Derek off life support, who'd filed a complaint against her for refusing to give up. You think he's the leak? We think he's connected. We just don't know how. Vickers leaned back. Which is where you come in. Elena looked up. What do you mean? Grayson's still at Redwood Heights, still treating patients, still has access to information through his consulting work. We need someone on the inside, someone he won't suspect. Vickers met her eyes. Someone like you. You want me to go back? We want you to finish what you started. File a wrongful termination suit, demand your job back, make enough noise that they have to reinstate you. Vickers pushed a folder toward her. Then you watch him. Document his movements, report anything suspicious, help us build a case. Elena's hands curled into fists under the table. I left that place for a reason. And now you have a reason to go back. A Marine almost died because no one listened to you. A contractor did die because someone sold him out. If Grayson's involved, he's responsible for both. Vickers' voice was quiet but sharp. Don't you want to know the truth? Elena looked at the photo again, at Grayson's tired face and his dismissive eyes and his complete certainty that he knew better. She thought about Derek, about the monitor flatlining, about the moment she'd refused to step aside. She thought about the contractor, about compressions in a moving truck, about a heart that had started again, only to stop for good an hour later. She thought about justice. When do I start? Vickers smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Tomorrow. We'll have the legal paperwork ready by morning. You'll file suit, demand reinstatement, and make enough noise that the hospital has no choice but to take you back. And then? Then you do what you do best. You pay attention. And you don't quit. Elena stood, walked out of Building 7 with a mission that had nothing to do with combat medicine and everything to do with unfinished business. She went back to her quarters and found a message waiting. From Brennan. Syria op is postponed. New assignment for you. Report to my office at 800. Elena stared at the message, then at Grayson's photo, still burned into her memory. Tomorrow, she was going back to Redwood Heights, back to the place that had tried to silence her, back to finish what they'd started. She lay down and tried to sleep. This time, she didn't dream about the contractor. She dreamed about Derek's eyes opening, and about Grayson's face when he realized she wasn't the same person who'd walked out. Morning came fast. Elena dressed in civilian clothes, the first time in weeks. Jeans, simple shirt, nothing that said military. She looked in the mirror and saw someone caught between two worlds. Brennan was waiting in his office with Vickers and two lawyers she'd never met. This is Emily Ross and David Kumar. They'll be handling your case. Wrongful termination. Violation of whistleblower protections. Interference with patient care. We're hitting them with everything. Ross slid a document across the desk. Sign here. We file in 2 hours. By end of business today, Redwood Heights will be served. Elena signed without reading it. She trusted these people more than she'd ever trusted the hospital. What's my cover story, Sit? She asked. No cover. You're exactly who you appear to be, a nurse who got fired for doing her job and wants it back. Vickers handed her a phone. But this is how you'll communicate with us. Encrypted, daily check-ins. Anything unusual, you report it immediately. Elena pocketed the phone. What about Alpha Team? Mercer knows. He's not happy about it, but he understands. Brennan met her eyes. This is voluntary, Sergeant. You can walk away right now. Elena thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. I'm in. She left the base at noon and drove back to Ashford City. The trip took 4 hours. She used the time to prepare, to remember who she'd been before, to bury the part of her that had spent the last month pulling people back from the edge in war zones. By the time she pulled into her apartment complex, she was Elena Ward, RN again. Not Sergeant Ward, not the medic who'd done compressions in a moving truck, just a nurse who'd been wronged and wanted justice. Her apartment looked exactly the same, dust on the furniture. Mail piled by the door, a life she'd walked away from, waiting like she'd never left. She unpacked, showered, changed into clean clothes, sat on her couch and waited for the phone to ring. It rang at 1700 hours. Linda Brennan, charge nurse, former supervisor. Elena answered. This is Elena. Elena, it's Linda. We just got served with a lawsuit. Your lawyers are claiming wrongful termination, and they're right. Silence on the other end. Then, Elena, please, can we talk about this? We tried talking. You suspended me. Then you fired me. Now we're talking through lawyers. The hospital is willing to settle. We can offer you 6 months severance and a neutral reference. I don't want severance. I want my job back. That's not going to happen. Then I'll see you in court. Elena hung up. The phone rang again 30 seconds later. Different number. She didn't recognize it. She answered anyway. Miss Ward, this is Hospital Administrator Gerald Kane. I think we got off on the wrong foot. You think? I'd like to meet with you, discuss a resolution, somewhere neutral. Tomorrow morning, perhaps? Elena smiled. They were scared. Good. 10 a.m. Your office. Bring your lawyers. She hung up before he could respond. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Grayson, about what Vickers had said, about offshore accounts and arms dealers and a doctor who'd been so certain he was right, about a Marine who'd almost died because no one would listen. Her phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Heard you're going back to the hospital. That true? Yeah. Why? Unfinished business. A pause, then, be careful. Some battles aren't worth fighting. Elena stared at the message, then typed, This one is. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she was walking back into Redwood Heights, not as the nurse they'd dismissed, as the person who was going to burn their world down, Elena arrived at Redwood Heights Medical Center at 9:45 the next morning. She parked in the visitor lot. Her employee badge had been deactivated weeks ago, and walked through the main entrance like she owned the place. Security nodded at her. The receptionist looked confused but didn't stop her. She took the elevator to the 4th floor. Administration. Gerald Kane's office was at the end of a carpeted hallway that smelled like expensive furniture polish and corporate anxiety. His assistant tried to intercept her. Miss Ward, you're early. I'm exactly on time. Elena walked past her and opened Kane's door without knocking. Kane was behind his desk, mid-50s, gray suit, carefully maintained hair that probably cost more than Elena made in a week. He looked up, startled, then recovered quickly. Miss Ward, please, sit. Two lawyers flanked him. Both looked like they billed by the minute. Elena recognized the type, hired to make problems disappear quietly, preferably with non-disclosure agreements and gag orders. She remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries, Kane said. You filed a lawsuit. We'd like to resolve this without litigation. Then give me my job back. One of the lawyers, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper suit, leaned forward. That's not realistic. The hospital has already moved forward with restructuring. Your position has been filled. Then unfill it. Kane held up a hand. Miss Ward, we're prepared to offer you a generous settlement, 12 months severance, full benefits continuation, a neutral employment reference. In exchange, you withdraw the lawsuit and sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. No. The lawyers exchanged glances. Kane's expression tightened. I don't think you understand the position you're in. This hospital has significant legal resources. We can drag this out for years, cost you everything you have. Elena pulled out her phone, set it on his desk. Hit play. Derek's voice filled the room. The recording she'd made the night his vitals had spiked. Her commands, the chaos. The moment the military had arrived and called her sergeant. Then another recording. The contractor in Yemen, whispering about the ambush. Then a third. Her conversation with Major Vickers about Grayson. Kane's face went pale. Where did you get that? Doesn't matter. What matters is what happens if this gets out. A decorated combat medic fired for saving a military patient. A hospital that ignored federal inquiries about a classified case. A doctor with suspicious financial connections who tried to terminate care on a Marine. Elena picked up her phone. I don't need to win in court. I just need to make sure everyone knows what happened here. The sharp-eyed lawyer started to speak. Elena cut her off. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in accountability. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to reinstate me. Full back pay. Full benefits. And you're going to launch an internal investigation into Dr. Grayson's consulting work and his financial activities. Kane's jaw worked. You're making serious accusations. I'm making observable statements. Grayson has offshore income. He had access to classified information through his defense contractor consulting, and he was the attending physician who tried to pull life support on a patient the DoD was actively monitoring. Elena leaned forward. So either you investigate him, or the Office of Special Investigations does it for you, publicly. The room went silent. Kane looked at his lawyers. The sharp-eyed one was already making notes. The other one looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. We need to discuss this internally, Kane said finally. You have until end of business today. After that, my lawyers file an amended complaint, with attachments. Elena walked to the door, paused. And just so we're clear, I'm not doing this because I need this job. I'm doing it because you need to understand what happens when you dismiss the wrong person. She left before anyone could respond. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. Elena's hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. She'd just threatened a hospital administrator with federal investigation. She'd played recordings that were probably inadmissible in court. She'd bluffed with cards she wasn't entirely sure she held. And it had worked. She walked out to her car and sat there for 10 minutes, breathing slowly, waiting for her heart rate to return to normal. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vickers. Nice work. Kane just called his lawyers. They're panicking. How do you know that? Because we've been monitoring his communications for 3 weeks. Keep pushing. Elena stared at the message, then typed, What aren't you telling me? Nothing you need to know yet. Trust the process. She didn't like that answer, but she also didn't have a choice. She drove home and waited. The call came at 4:30 p.m. Kane's assistant. Miss Ward, Mr. Kane would like to speak with you. Elena put her on speaker. I'm listening. Kane's voice came through, tight and controlled. We've reviewed your proposal. The hospital's prepared to reinstate you, effective immediately. Full back pay. Benefits restored. In exchange, you agree to keep certain information confidential. What information? Anything related to the Hale case or Dr. Grayson's consulting work? No deal. I'm not signing an NDA. Then we have nothing further to discuss. Fine. See you in federal court. Elena moved to hang up. Wait. Kane's voice cracked slightly. What do you want? I already told you. Reinstatement, back pay, and a full investigation into Grayson. No NDAs, no gag orders, transparency. A long pause. Then, I'll need to get board approval. You have until tomorrow morning. Elena hung up. She spent that evening running. 10 miles, 12, 15. She ran until her legs gave out and her mind finally went quiet. When she got back to her apartment, there was a message from Brennan. Sergeant Ward, I've been informed you're making waves. Good, keep it up, but watch your back. People like Kane don't go down quietly. Elena deleted the message and made dinner she didn't eat. Sat on her couch, stared at the wall. Her phone rang at 9 p.m. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end, then a voice, male, distorted. You should have taken the money. The line went dead. Elena sat there, phone in hand, ice running through her veins. She checked the number, blocked, untraceable. She called Vickers immediately. Someone just threatened me. What did they say? Elena told him. Could you identify the voice? No. It was run through a filter or something. Vickers was quiet for a moment. We'll trace the call. In the meantime, don't go anywhere alone. And if you see anything suspicious, call me immediately. Elena hung up and walked to her window, looked out at the parking lot. Everything seemed normal. Cars, streetlights, nothing moving, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. That night, she slept with her service weapon, legally registered, carefully maintained, on her nightstand. She'd told herself she wouldn't need it in civilian life. Turned out, she'd been wrong. Morning came. No more calls, no messages. Elena got ready for work. For the first time in weeks, she put on scrubs and drove to Redwood Heights. Kane's assistant met her in the lobby. Mister, Kane wants to see you. Elena followed her upstairs. This time, the office was different. No lawyers. Just Kane, looking like he hadn't slept. The board approved your reinstatement. Effective today. Full back pay deposited by end of week. He slid a document across the desk. Sign here. Elena read it carefully. No hidden clauses, no NDAs, exactly what she'd demanded. She signed. Kane pulled the document back. You've put this hospital in a very difficult position. Good. Doctor. Grayson has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Dr. Patel is now interim head of the ICU. You'll report to her. Elena nodded, stood to leave. One more thing, Kane said. His voice was quiet, almost defeated. Whatever you think you know about Grayson, be careful. He has friends in places you don't want to make enemies. Elena met his eyes. So do I. She left his office and took the elevator to the ICU. The floor looked the same. Same nurses. Same monitors beeping. Same smell of antiseptic and recycled air. But when she walked in, everyone stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Residents froze. Rita, the night supervisor who'd witnessed Derek's first response, stood by the nursing station with an expression Elena couldn't read. Linda Brennan emerged from her office. Elena, welcome back. The word sounded genuine. The tone didn't match. Thanks. We've got you on day shift. Room assignments are posted. If you need anything, I'll figure it out. Elena walked to the board and checked her patients. 6 assignments, standard load, nothing unusual. Except room 12, the room where Derek had been. A new patient now, different name, different condition, but the same space where she'd fought to keep a Marine alive while everyone else had given up. She walked past it, didn't look inside, kept moving. The first few hours were strange. Other nurses kept their distance. Doctors who used to chat with her now found reasons to be elsewhere. Only Rita treated her normally. They're scared of you, Rita said quietly during a lull. Word got around about what you did, about the lawsuit, about Grayson. Let them be scared. Rita almost smiled. You've changed. I just stopped pretending. At lunch, Elena sat alone in the cafeteria. She was halfway through a sandwich she didn't taste when Dr. Patel approached. Can I sit? Elena gestured to the empty chair. Patel sat. She looked tired, older somehow. I owe you an apology. Elena waited. I didn't believe you, about Derek Hale, about his responses. I thought you were seeing what you wanted to see. Patel's voice was quiet. I was wrong, and because I was wrong, we almost killed a man who deserved better. You didn't almost kill him. You just didn't fight to save him. There's a difference. Is there? Elena looked at her, really looked. Patel wasn't trying to make excuses. She was genuinely struggling with what had happened. Yeah, there is. One is malice, the other is just giving up too soon. Patel nodded slowly. I won't make that mistake again. She stood and left. Elena watched her go, feeling something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. The afternoon shift was busier. 2 admissions, 1 code that Elena helped run, successfully. A trauma case that reminded her too much of Yemen. At 4 p.m., her phone buzzed. Text from Vickers. Grayson's lawyer just filed a motion to block the hospital investigation. Says it violates his privacy rights. Elena typed back. Can they do that? They can try. Won't work. We've got federal jurisdiction, but it'll slow things down. How much? Days. Maybe a week. Elena pocketed her phone and went back to work. She didn't have time to worry about Grayson's legal maneuvering. She had patients who needed her. But at 6 p.m., when her shift ended, she found a note taped to her locker. Stop digging. Last warning. No signature. Just block letters. Printed, not handwritten. Elena took a photo of it and sent it to Vickers. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her bag. Someone was getting desperate. Good. She drove home, checking her mirrors constantly. No one followed, no suspicious cars. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. She parked in her usual spot and was halfway to her door when she noticed it. Her apartment door was open. Just slightly. An inch, maybe less. She'd locked it that morning. She was sure of it. Elena backed away slowly, pulled out her phone, called Vickers. Someone's been in my apartment. Are you sure? Door's open. I locked it. Don't go in. I'm sending local PD. Stay outside until they clear it. Elena waited in her car. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol units arrived. 4 officers. They cleared her apartment room by room, nothing taken, nothing obviously disturbed, except her laptop was open. She'd closed it that morning. She knew she had. One of the officers, a sergeant with 20 years on his face, looked at her seriously. "Ma'am, someone was definitely in here, no signs of forced entry. Either they picked the lock or they had a key." "I'm the only one with a key." "Then they picked it. You should consider staying somewhere else tonight." Elena almost laughed. "I've been shot at in 3 countries. I'm not leaving my own apartment." The sergeant shrugged. "Your call. We'll file a report. Recommend you get new locks, maybe a camera." They left. Elena walked through her apartment, checking everything. Nothing missing. Nothing moved except the laptop. She opened it, checked the browser history. Someone had accessed her email, her bank account, her social media. They were looking for something, or leaving a message. Elena called Vickers back. "They went through my computer." "What did they access?" "Everything. Email, financial records, everything." Vickers swore quietly. "Pack a bag. I'm sending someone to pick you up." "I'm not running." "Elena, these people have already threatened you twice and broken into your home. This isn't about being brave, it's about being smart." "Then help me be smart. Give me surveillance, give me protection. But I'm not leaving." A long pause. "I'll have someone outside your building within the hour, armed, trained. But if anything else happens, anything, you call me immediately." "Deal." Elena hung up and walked to her bedroom, pulled out her service weapon and checked the magazine. 15 rounds. She chambered one and set it on her nightstand. Then she sat on her bed and tried to think. Someone was escalating. The phone call, the note, the break-in. They were trying to scare her off, which meant she was close to something. Her phone buzzed. Text from Derek. "Heard your apartment got hit. You okay?" "How do you know about that?" "I still have friends in interesting places." "Need backup?" Elena stared at the message. Derek was at Walter Reed, recovering. He shouldn't even be thinking about this. But the offer was genuine. "I'm fine. Focus on getting better." "Already am. Doctor says I'll be cleared for duty in 6 weeks. That's too fast." "That's the Marine Corps. We don't do slow." Elena almost smiled. Then, "Derek, who do you trust at Redwood Heights?" A pause. Then, "No one." "Why?" "Just wondering." "Elena, whatever you're doing, be careful. These people play for keeps. So do I." She set the phone down and walked to her window, looked out at the parking lot. A black SUV had pulled in. Unmarked. Tinted windows. It parked in a spot with clear sightlines to her building. Vickers people. Elena closed the blinds and tried to sleep. It didn't work. At 2 a.m., her phone rang. Vickers. "We traced the threatening call. It came from a burner phone purchased in Ashford City 3 days ago. Paid cash. No surveillance footage." "So a dead end. For now. But we're pulling cell tower data. If we can triangulate where the call originated, we might get lucky." "What about Grayson?" "Still under investigation, but his lawyer's making noise, threatening to go public, claim this is a witch hunt. Let him. The truth holds up." Vickers was quiet for a moment. "Elena, I need you to understand something. If Grayson is dirty, and I think he is, he's not working alone. Someone with real resources is protecting him, the kind of people who can make problems disappear." "You think they'll come after me again?" "I think they already are." Elena looked at her weapon on the nightstand. Then they'd better bring enough people. The next morning, she went back to work. The SUV followed her to the hospital, parked in the visitor lot. Stayed there. Elena walked into Redwood Heights like nothing had happened, checked her assignments, 6 patients, room 12 still on her list. At 9 a.m., Dr. Patel called a staff meeting. Elena attended. So did most of the ICU. Patel stood at the front of the room, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sure you've all heard about Dr. Grayson's administrative leave. I want to be clear. This is not a reflection on his clinical skills. It's a routine investigation into some consulting work he did outside the hospital." Rita raised her hand. "Is it true he's being investigated by the DOD?" Patel hesitated. "I can't comment on that." "So it is true." "I said I can't comment." Another nurse spoke up. "Is Elena's lawsuit connected to this?" All eyes turned to Elena. She kept her expression neutral. Patel cleared her throat. That's also something I can't discuss. What I can say is that Elena has been reinstated and we're moving forward as a team. If anyone has concerns, my door is open. The meeting ended. Elena went back to work. At noon, her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Meet me. Parking garage, level 3, alone. Elena stared at it. Could be a trap. Probably was a trap. She texted Vickers. Just got a message. Someone wants to meet. Don't go. It's not safe. If I don't go, I won't find out what they want. Elena, I'm going. Keep your people close. She pocketed her phone and took the elevator to the parking garage. Level 3 was mostly empty. A few cars scattered around. Shadows in the corners. A figure stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. Dr. Raymond Grayson. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Rumpled clothes. Eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept in days. You couldn't leave it alone, he said. His voice was hollow. Leave what alone? Everything. Hale, the complaint, the investigation. He took a step closer. You've destroyed my career. You destroyed your own career. I just made sure people noticed. Grayson laughed. It sounded broken. You have no idea what you've done. No idea what you've started. Then explain it to me. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his pocket. A flash drive. This is everything. Names, transactions, communications. Proof of what they've been doing. He held it out. Take it. Go public. Burn it all down. Elena didn't move. Who's they? Defense contractors, intelligence officers, people who use hospitals as cover for information trafficking. I thought I was just consulting, providing medical expertise. I didn't know what they were really doing until it was too late. His hand shook. Then they had leverage. They owned me. And Derek Hale? He wasn't supposed to survive. He'd seen something, knew something. They wanted him dead quietly. Hospital error. No questions asked. Grayson's voice broke. I tried to stop it. I pushed back. That's when they threatened my family, my daughter. They showed me pictures of her at school, told me what would happen if I didn't cooperate. Elena felt ice in her stomach. So you tried to kill him? I tried to make it look natural, withdraw care, let him slip away. No one would question it. He looked at her. Then you wouldn't let go. You kept fighting. And when the military showed up, everything fell apart. Elena took a step forward. Give me the drive. Grayson held it out. His hand was shaking harder now. They know I'm here. They know I'm talking to you. I'm a dead man either way. Then help me stop them. This is me helping you. He pressed the drive into her hand. Go to the FBI, OSI, anyone outside the system. Don't trust local police. Don't trust hospital security. They're compromised. How many people are involved? I don't know. Enough that I can't sleep. Enough that I'm looking over my shoulder every minute. He backed away. I'm sorry for what I did to Hale. For dismissing you. For all of it. I was weak and scared, and I made choices I can't take back. You can still make this right. No, I can't. But maybe you can. He turned to leave, paused. They'll come for you next. Be ready. He walked away into the shadows. Elena stood there, drive in hand, mind racing. She pulled out her phone and called Vickers. I just talked to Grayson. He gave me evidence. Says it's everything. Where are you? Hospital parking garage. Get out of there. Now. Go straight to your car and drive to... Gunfire shattered the air. 3 shots. Fast. Professional. Elena dropped, heart slamming, weapon already in her hand. She scanned for the source. Saw nothing. Then she saw Grayson. He was on the ground 20 feet away. Not moving. Blood pooling beneath him. More gunfire, this time aimed at her. Rounds sparked off concrete. Elena ran, keeping low, using cars for cover. She made it to the stairwell and burst through, taking stairs 2 at a time. Her phone was screaming. Vickers shouting. She couldn't answer, just ran. She hit the ground floor and kept running, out into the street, into daylight, into witnesses. The black SUV screeched up beside her. Door opened. Get in! Elena dove inside. The SUV peeled out before the door even closed. The driver was military, late 30s, stone-faced. You hurt? No. The flash drive. Elena realized she was still clutching it. I have it. Good. Hold on. They drove. Fast. Through traffic. Running lights, taking corners hard enough to make the tires scream. Elena's phone finally stopped ringing. She answered. Elena! Vickers sounded frantic. Are you… I'm alive. Grayson's not. Silence. Then, did you see the shooter? No, professional, suppressed weapon, gone before I could react. Where's the drive? I have it. Good. We're taking you to a safe location, federal facility. No one knows about it. You'll be secure there while we analyze what Grayson gave you. Elena looked out the window. They were leaving Ashford City, heading north. What about Redwood Heights? We'll handle it. Your job right now is to stay alive. The call ended. Elena sat back and tried to breathe, tried to process. Grayson was dead, shot in a hospital parking garage in broad daylight, because he'd tried to do the right thing, because he'd given her evidence. She looked at the drive in her hand. Such a small thing. Barely weighs anything. But people had died for it, and she had a feeling more were going to die before this was over. The safe house was 3 hours north, a farmhouse that looked abandoned from the road, but hummed with surveillance equipment once you got inside. Cameras, motion sensors, armed personnel rotating in shifts. Vickers met her at the door. Give me the drive. Elena handed it over. He disappeared into the back room with 2 analysts she didn't recognize. She was left in what used to be a living room, now converted into a command center. Monitors everywhere, maps, secure phones. She sat down and tried not to think about Grayson's body on the concrete. Tried and failed. An hour later, Vickers emerged. His face was pale. You need to see this. Elena followed him into the analysis room. One of the analysts, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes, pulled up files on the main screen. Grayson wasn't exaggerating. This is comprehensive. Names, bank accounts, encrypted communications, a network spanning 3 defense contractors, 2 private intelligence firms, and at least 14 individuals embedded in medical facilities across 7 states. What were they doing? Elena asked. Using hospitals as cover for intelligence gathering, patients with security clearances would come in for routine procedures. While they were sedated, someone would access their phones, laptops, encrypted devices, pull classified data, sell it to the highest bidder. Elena felt sick. Derek. Vickers nodded. Corporal Hale had field intelligence on his personal device, operational details, personnel locations. If they'd gotten to him while he was comatose, they would have had everything. And you stopped them by refusing to let him die. Vickers pulled up another file. But it goes deeper. The Yemen contractor, his mission was compromised because someone leaked his location using data stolen from a patient at a military hospital in Germany 6 months ago. Elena's hands curled into fists. How many people died because of this? We're still counting, at least 9 confirmed, probably more. The analyst brought up a new screen. But here's where it gets worse. Hospital Administrator Gerald Kane is on the list. So is Richard Stanton, the legal counsel who threatened you. They weren't just covering for Grayson. They were part of it. Do we have enough to prosecute? We have enough to bury them. Vickers looked at her. But we need you to testify. Everything you saw, everything that happened with Derek Hale, the dismissals, the attempts to pull life support, all of it. When? Federal grand jury convenes in 72 hours. We're moving fast before anyone else disappears. Elena nodded. I'll be there. She spent that night at the safe house, trying to sleep on a couch that smelled like old coffee and stale cigarettes. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Grayson falling, heard the gunshots, wondered if she'd be next. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Derek, just heard what happened. You really okay? Physically, yeah. That's not what I asked. Elena stared at the message, then typed, I watched a man get executed 20 feet from me. I'm not okay. No one would be. But you're alive. That matters, does it? A longer pause, then, yeah, it does. Because if you weren't, whoever did this would have won. Elena set the phone down, stared at the ceiling, tried to believe that. The next morning, Vickers briefed her on security protocols for the grand jury appearance, where she'd enter, who would be there, how they'd keep her safe. We've got federal marshals, secured routes, no public announcements. As far as anyone knows, you're still at the safe house. What about Redwood Heights? Raided at dawn this morning, FBI, DOD investigators. They seized servers, financial records, personnel files. Kane and Stanton were arrested an hour ago, both lawyered up immediately. Good. Vickers studied her. You understand what's going to happen when you testify. Every detail of Derek Hale's case becomes public record. Your military service, your dismissal, everything. I know. Some people won't like it. They'll say you're grandstanding, making yourself the hero. Elena met his eyes. I don't care what people say. I care about making sure this never happens again. 72 hours later, she walked into a federal courthouse in downtown D.C. Marshals flanked her. The hallways were empty, cleared specifically for her arrival. She was escorted to a secure room where a prosecutor went over her testimony one final time. Just tell the truth. Answer the questions directly. Don't elaborate unless asked. I've testified before. Not like this. This is going to get ugly. The grand jury room was smaller than she expected. 23 people sitting in tiered seats looking at her like she was an exhibit in a museum. The prosecutor, a woman named Janet Reese, with 20 years of putting bad people away, stood beside her. Please state your name for the record. Elena Marie Ward. And your occupation? Registered nurse, former Army combat medic. Reese walked her through it. Derek's admission, the dismissals. The responses everyone ignored. The moment she'd been suspended. The military's arrival. Grayson's confession in the parking garage. The gunshots. Elena kept her voice steady, factual. She didn't embellish, didn't need to. The truth was damning enough. One of the grand jurors, an older woman in the back, raised her hand. Miss Ward, why did you keep fighting for Corporal Hale when everyone told you to stop? Elena looked at her. Because I knew he was still in there, and because if I'd given up, he'd be dead. Not because his injuries were fatal, because no one cared enough to try. But you cared. I did my job, that's all. The woman nodded slowly. Some people do their job, some people do what's right. You did both. The testimony lasted 3 hours. When it ended, Reese walked Elena out. You did well. The jury's already leaning toward indictment. Your testimony sealed it. How many people are we talking about? 14 arrests so far, more pending. This is going to be one of the biggest healthcare corruption cases in federal history. Reese paused at the door. You should be proud. I'm just tired. Elena was driven back to the safe house. She stayed there for another week while the indictments rolled out. Kane, Stanton, 3 other doctors, 2 hospital administrators, 4 defense contractor employees, an intelligence analyst, a mid-level DOD official. The news coverage was relentless, every network, every paper. The story of a conspiracy to use hospitals as espionage platforms, of patients betrayed, of a nurse who'd refused to be silent. Elena didn't watch any of it. She just waited for the call that it was safe to go home. It came 2 weeks later, Vickers himself. Primary suspects are in custody, secondary players are cooperating. You're clear to resume normal life. What about the shooter, the one who killed Grayson? Still looking, but without Kane's protection, they've gone to ground. We'll find them eventually. Elena packed her single bag and was driven back to Ashford City, back to her apartment, back to a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. The locks had been changed, security cameras installed, a panic button by her bed. Precautions that felt necessary and invasive all at once. She stood in her living room and looked around. Everything the same, everything different. Her phone rang. Linda Brennan. Elena, I don't even know what to say. We all just found out about Kane, about Grayson, about what was really happening. You didn't know? No. None of us did. We thought... Linda's voice broke. We thought you were being difficult, emotional. We had no idea. Elena didn't respond. The hospital board wants to meet with you, publicly apologize, offer you compensation. I don't want compensation. Then what do you want? Elena thought about it. I want changes, real ones. I want a patient advocate position, someone whose only job is to listen when a nurse raises concerns. I want mandatory review protocols for any decision to withdraw care. And I want it in writing that no medical professional will ever be punished for fighting to save a patient. Linda was quiet for a long moment. I'll make sure the board hears that. Good. The call ended. 2 days later, Elena received a formal invitation to a hospital board meeting. She almost didn't go. Then she remembered Grayson's words. Maybe you can make this right. She went. The boardroom was full. Directors, senior staff, press cameras at the back. Elena walked in wearing scrubs. Her choice, her statement, and sat at the head of the table. The board chairman, a man in his 60s with the kind of face that suggested he'd spent a lifetime in corporate negotiations, cleared his throat. Miss Ward, on behalf of Redwood Heights Medical Center, I want to offer our deepest apologies. The actions of certain individuals within this institution were reprehensible. They violated the trust of our patients and our staff. We failed you, and we failed Corporal Hale. Elena waited. We're implementing immediate reforms, a patient advocacy office, new oversight protocols, whistleblower protections for all staff, and we'd like to offer you the position of Director of Patient Safety, full administrative authority, salary commensurate with the responsibility. Elena looked at him, at the cameras, at the people who dismissed her, suspended her, and then watched her prove them all wrong. I'll take the position, but I have conditions. Name them. Full autonomy, no interference from administration, direct reporting to the board, not through department heads, and every policy change I recommend gets implemented within 30 days, or I walk and take my story to every outlet that'll listen. The chairman glanced at the other board members, then nodded. Agreed. Elena stood, extended her hand. Then we have a deal. The meeting ended. The press rushed her with questions. She ignored them and walked out. In the hallway, she found Rita waiting. Director of Patient Safety, that's a big job. Someone has to do it, Rita smiled. I'm glad it's you. Elena started the new position the following Monday. Her office was small but functional. Window overlooking the ICU, desk with a computer that actually worked, a phone that rang constantly. She spent the first week meeting with nurses, listening to complaints, documenting concerns that had been ignored for years. She found patterns, systemic failures, places where protocol and reality diverged so far apart that people just stopped reporting problems. She changed that. Within a month, she'd implemented a new reporting system. Anonymous, direct, unfiltered, every concern reviewed within 48 hours, every valid issue escalated immediately. Within 2 months, patient safety metrics started improving. Within 3 months, 2 doctors were placed on administrative review for ignoring nursing assessments. Within 4 months, Redwood Heights had the lowest preventable mortality rate in the state. People noticed. Other hospitals started calling, asking about her protocols, requesting consultations. Elena spent her evenings writing policy recommendations that got distributed to medical centers across the country. She was making a difference, a real one. But some nights, she still thought about Yemen, about the contractor dying despite everything she'd done, about Grayson falling in the parking garage, about the cost of doing the right thing. 6 months after the grand jury testimony, she got a call from Brennan. Sergeant Ward, I have someone who wants to talk to you. A pause, then a familiar voice. Heard you're making waves in the civilian world. Elena smiled and, Derek, you're supposed to be deployed. Just got back, clean bill of health, full duty status. He paused. I also heard you turned down a position with Alpha Team. I did. Why? Elena looked out her window, at the ICU where she'd fought to save him, where this had all started. Because I can do more good here, training people to listen, building systems that prevent what happened to you from happening to someone else. That's a good answer. Derek's voice was quiet. I never thanked you properly for not giving up on me. You don't have to thank me for doing my job. It was more than your job. We both know that. He paused. I'm in town next week. Buy you coffee? You're buying? Must be serious. Damn right I am. You saved my life. Least I can do is spring for a latte. They met at a coffee shop near the hospital. Derek looked good, healthy. The hollowness was gone from his face. He moved like someone who'd reclaimed control of their body. They sat outside, warm afternoon, light traffic. You look different, Derek said. So do you. I mean it. You look settled, like you figured something out. Elena thought about that. I did. I figured out that fighting the system doesn't mean leaving it. Sometimes it means staying and making it better. That's harder than leaving. Yeah, but it's worth it. Derek nodded, sipped his coffee. I read the testimony transcripts. What you said about me, about them trying to let me die quietly. It was the truth. I know, but hearing it laid out like that, he set down his cup. I didn't realize how close I came. You were never that close. Not while I was there. He looked at her. Really looked. You know what the doctors at Walter Reed told me? They said I shouldn't have survived. That the odds of coming back from what I had were basically zero. But I did. Because you're stubborn. Because you wouldn't let me quit. He leaned forward. I'm serious, Elena. I don't remember most of it, but I remember your voice. Telling me I wasn't done. Telling me to wake up. And somehow I did. Elena felt something tighten in her chest. You would have made it anyway. Maybe. But I wouldn't have made it the same way. You gave me something to fight for. Someone who believed I was worth saving. He paused. That matters more than you know. They finished their coffee. Derek walked her back to her car. Stay in touch, he said. I mean it. You're one of the good ones. So are you. He smiled and walked away. Elena watched him go, feeling something shift. Not closure exactly, but maybe peace. She drove back to the hospital, parked in her assigned spot, director level now, close to the entrance. Walked through the halls where people nodded at her with respect instead of dismissal. Her office had messages waiting, 3 nurses requesting meetings, 2 policy reviews, 1 request from a hospital in Boston asking her to consult on a patient's safety overhaul. She got to work. That evening, as the sun set over Ashford City, Elena stood at her office window and looked down at the ICU, at the nurses moving between rooms, at the monitors beeping, at the organized chaos of people trying to save lives. She thought about the journey, about being dismissed, about fighting when everyone said to quit, about the moment she'd refused to step aside and let Derek die, about discovering that the quiet strength of refusing to give up was sometimes the most powerful force of all. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sarah Vickers. Saw your name in the medical journals. Patient safety reform. Making me proud, kid. Elena smiled. Typed back. Learned from the best. You exceeded the lesson. That's all you. Elena set the phone down and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, people were fighting battles no one saw. Being dismissed. Being told to quit. Being pushed aside by systems that valued convenience over conscience. She'd been one of them. Now she was the person making sure they didn't have to fight alone. 3 months later, the verdicts came down. Kane got 12 years, Stanton got 8. The defense contractors got varying sentences. The DoD official took a plea and turned state's evidence. The network was dismantled. The operation shut down. Justice, served cold and complete. Elena attended the sentencing hearing, sat in the gallery, watched Kane's face as the judge read the verdict. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. He saw her as they let him out. Their eyes met for just a moment. She didn't smile, didn't gloat, just watched him go. Afterward, Reese found her in the hallway. How does it feel? Elena thought about it. Like I can finally breathe. You did something remarkable. You know that, right? You took on an entire criminal enterprise, and you won. I just refused to be quiet. That's what made the difference. Reese handed her a card. If you ever want to do this professionally, expert witness work, consulting for federal cases, call me. We could use someone like you. Elena pocketed the card. I'll think about it. She drove back to Ashford City, back to her office, back to the work that mattered. A year passed. Elena's reforms spread to 43 hospitals across 12 states. Patient safety protocols bearing her name became industry standard. She published 3 papers in medical journals, keynoted 2 national conferences, trained over 200 nurses in advocacy and escalation procedures. Redwood Heights became a model facility. Other institutions sent staff to observe, to learn. to understand how listening to the people closest to patients could save lives. Elena still worked the floor sometimes, still took shifts in the ICU, still sat with patients and listened to breathing patterns that told stories doctors couldn't hear. But now, when she raised a concern, people listened. On the anniversary of Derek's awakening, she received a package, no return address. Inside was a small wooden box, hand-carved, beautiful, and a note for the woman who wouldn't quit. The unit voted. You're an honorary member. Semper Fi, Alpha Team. Inside the box was a military challenge coin, custom made. On one side, the Alpha Team insignia. On the other, a single line. She refused to let him die. Elena held it for a long time, feeling the weight, the meaning, the recognition from people who understood what it meant to fight when the odds said quit. She set it on her desk, where she could see it every day, where it would remind her why she'd chosen this path. That evening, she got a call from Brennan. Sergeant Ward, I have a proposition. I'm listening. We're establishing a new program. Civilian medical consultants for special operations. People who understand both worlds, who can train medics, review protocols, provide oversight for classified medical operations. He paused. Your name came up, multiple times, from multiple sources. I have a job. I know, and you're doing incredible work, but this would be part-time, a few weeks a year, training rotations, policy review, the kind of thing that could prevent what happened in Yemen from happening again. Elena looked at the challenge coin on her desk. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. But Elena, we could really use someone like you, someone who knows what it means to fight for people everyone else has given up on. The call ended. Elena sat in her office as the sun set over Ashford City, as the ICU hummed below her, as nurses changed shifts and patients fought battles no one else could see. She thought about Derek, about Alpha Team, about the contractor who'd died whispering warnings, about Grayson, who'd tried to make things right too late. She thought about justice, about accountability, about the quiet strength that came from refusing to be silent, and she thought about the future, about the choice in front of her, about whether she could make a difference in both worlds. Her phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Heard Brennan called. What are you thinking? Elena looked at the message, then typed, I'm thinking some fights are worth coming back for. That's the right answer. Let me know when you decide. I'll make sure they treat you right. You offering to be my advocate? Someone's got to return the favor. Elena smiled, set the phone down, looked out at the city that had tried to dismiss her, silence her, and ultimately failed to stop her. She'd come a long way from the nurse no one listened to. She'd become the voice people couldn't ignore, and she was just getting started. 6 months later, Elena stood in front of a room full of special operations medics at Fort Bragg, teaching them what she'd learned, about listening to patterns no one else saw, about fighting for patients when the data said quit, about the difference between saving someone and letting them save themselves. The medics listened, really listened, because they knew she'd been there, done the impossible, proven that sometimes the person everyone underestimates is exactly the person who changes everything. After the session, Mercer approached. Good brief, clear, actionable. The team appreciated it. How's the rotation going? Better now that we have someone who understands what we're up against. He paused. Derek speaks highly of you, says you're the reason he's back in the field. He's the reason I kept fighting, even when I didn't know it. Mercer nodded. Funny how that works. We save each other without realizing it. Elena flew back to Ashford City that evening, back to her office, back to the hospital that had fired her and then begged her to return. She walked through this ICU, checked on a few patients, talked to the night nurses, made sure the systems were working. Everything ran smoothly, the way it should have all along. In her office, she found a letter waiting. Official hospital letterhead. Dear Director Ward, on behalf of the Board of Directors, we are pleased to inform you that Redwood Heights Medical Center has been recognized as the safest hospital in the nation for patient care outcomes. This achievement is a direct result of your leadership, vision, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Thank you for showing us what's possible when we listen. Elena set the letter aside, looked at the challenge coin on her desk, at the photos on her wall, her with Alpha Team, her at the conference keynote, Her with the first class of nurses she'd trained. Evidence of a life rebuilt. Of battles won. Of a system changed because one person refused to accept that this was just how things were. She thought about the people who told her to give up, to let go, to accept that some fights weren't worth fighting. They'd been wrong. Every single one of them. Her phone buzzed one last time. Text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then she looked. Miss Ward, you don't know me, but I'm a nurse at a hospital in Chicago. I read about what you did, about how you wouldn't give up on your patient. I'm facing something similar now, a patient everyone says won't make it, but I think they're wrong. I think he's still fighting. Your story gave me the courage to keep pushing. Thank you. Elena stared at the message, felt something shift in her chest. She typed back, trust your instincts, document everything. Don't let anyone tell you to quit, and if you need help, call me. She added her number. Because that's what this was really about. Not just saving one Marine, not just taking down a criminal network, not just changing one hospital. It was about showing others that standing up was possible, that fighting back was worth it, that one voice, refusing to be silent, could start a wave that changed everything. Elena Ward had been dismissed, suspended, threatened, nearly killed. And she'd won anyway. Not because she was perfect, not because she never doubted, not because it was easy, but because when every voice told her to quit, she'd found one that mattered more. Her own. And now, somewhere in Chicago, another nurse was learning the same lesson. The fight wasn't over. It never really was. But now, people like her didn't have to fight alone. Elena shut down her computer, turned off the lights, locked her office door. Tomorrow, there would be more battles. More patients. More systems to change. Tonight, she went home knowing she'd done what she set out to do. She'd refused to let them win, and in doing so, she had shown everyone else they didn't have to lose. That was enough. That was everything.